Me and Momoa become friends. I teach him how to play hockey, skate. We skate every Sunday at St. Bon's Forum. And then he says, I'm sitting there with him down at the Merchant Tavern in St. John's. We're having a beer. Some of the crew are around it. I think it was on a day off, but we all hung out together. Mo was great like that. Hangs out with all the crew. So his assistant's there, and she got a call. I think she had to go back to LA for some reason. Maybe a health problem for someone in her family. And he just looks over at me. He goes, "You want to be my assistant for 3 months?" So I was just a few days later. I was driving down the street here, and casting called me. I thought it was a joke. They said, do you want to be in Letterkenny?" I'm like, "Sure, I'd love to be in Letterkenny." And I go up there, and sure enough, I do this scene. And he tells me before it. He goes, "I've got the lines written, but I've only been to Newfoundland once." And he says, "I watch Coldwater Cowboys all the time. That's about Newfoundland. But if you need to add anything to this," he goes, "the whole point is that you're taunting the bench. And it's you and your buddy." And so the guy who comes out, Patrick Cook, I know him. I haven't seen him in 15 years, but he's from just down the road. I played hockey with his two brothers. And he says, "Okay, I'm going to do Townie like Monday Ponderry." I said, "Okay, I will too. Let's do it." So I got out and I was offered on a film set. My buddy, Alan Hawke, was the lead actor on a Canadian TV show called Republic of Doyle. And it was the first major production that we had here. Now we got studios. We got a huge 200-person crew.
And Terry, that's exclusively filmed in Newfoundland, right? Like that's all.
Yeah, that was filmed, and it led to like now we have 3 studios. Now those same people do a show called Hudson and Rex, and Son of a Critch, and so anyway. But at the time, it was a job, and he said. So Hawks called me in. He said, and I'd made some bad investments. I needed money, and he just said, "Look, it's going to be whatever it was. I think $300 a day, plus if you do overtime." But it was like jump how high. I was a production assistant. I was locations, and then I was an AD. And like, if you know that world, you're in there. You're working hard, and it's like long 15, 16, 17 sometimes hour days. And I did that for 5 years. Right? I didn't expect to be an actor or anything else. I was in there, and it was good money. And now all of a sudden, other places started coming here, and the province clued in. And we give a great tax credit now for anybody that wants to come. Part of Peter Pan was just filmed here. We got 4 or 5 movies going on here now at this exact time. Ben Stiller's out in Bonavista as I speak. So, like, it became somewhat of a hotbed, being how our size. I don't think anybody really expected it. But for many reasons now, it's a good place to film. But anyway, at that time, so this is what happened. The show ends 2015. They do season 6. It's all done. We hear that they're doing a show called Frontier, which is coming in 8 months or so. Okay. And then they're going, who's going to be in it? And we're hearing Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones. Jason Momoa is coming. So in the summer, now these people are always doing side projects. So I get a call in the summer to go out to Bonavista again, Trinity Bonavista. That's where Michael Ryder and Adam Party are from. And it's a 2-hour jaunt at least from St. John's. But we go out there and we're in this community called Keels, and Wi-Fi doesn't work. It's tiny. There's maybe 20 houses. But it's a great place to film for a few reasons. And we're doing this show called Maudie, and it's about Maud Lewis, who is a folk artist from Digby, Nova Scotia. So Keels is going to double as Digby, Nova Scotia in this film. So anyway, and Ethan Hawke is in it. So with Sally Hopkins, I think her name is. So I'm at the end of a long day, and most people that work on this show are going back into Clarenville, or they're going to Bonavista, where their hotels are. But again, where I got to be last on the scene and first on it, I'm sitting right next to where we're going to do set the next day. So the only people in the community with us are the actors. So I sit there at the end of a long ass day. It's about October 20th, and we get real warm. We get some warm days in the fall. It's like 25 degrees still. The sun's going down. I got a bottle of Jack right here, and I got a joint right here. Take a sip, puffing on the joint. Behind me, I hear these footsteps. Ethan Hawke sits right next to me. Now, he used to go to games in Montreal with Kiefer Sutherland. So the first day we were filming, I could have got fired for this, but I threw my book, which had just been released, Tales of a First Round Nothing. I threw it into his seat in the green room. And again, I didn't ever think if he did get around to it, whenever that would be, who knows? Other than that, I didn't make eye contact with him. And he sat down and he said, "You know what? I fucking love the book." I said, "You didn't read it already? I just gave it to you." And he said, "Well, we got no Wi-Fi out here. I can't call home or anything." So not only did I read it, but now I want to have a drink with you and talk about it. So I'm going,
Perfect.
okay, we're sitting on the edge of a cliff, me and Ethan Hawke. So we're going back and forth. And he told me he had a friend. I don't know college football that well, but I think he said he coached Texas A&M for a while, and he could have been up in the NFL, but he didn't. And he said, it's not all about that. It's about the journey. And he said, after reading that, if nothing else, you're a creative person. He said, now I think you should go for an audition. I'm like, what? In the fucking movies? Yes, bye. And he goes, oh, honestly, I said, I've been doing this for 5 years. If I was going to go for an audition, I would have done it by now. And he's like, no, I really think you should. And we got back in. I took him out on George Street for one night. And we went to Greensleeves and then the Bull and Barrel. And he had his last drink and he looked at me and he said, well, I got to go now. He said, it was great meeting you, but I really think you should. And I've mentioned it to some people around here that are going to be on set. So the next day I called Alan Hawke. I said, this is weird, but I was talking to Ethan Hawke and this is what he told me verbatim, man. So I get it if you can't do it, but if nothing else, is there anywhere I could take lessons or something? I'm going to really give somewhat of a try to this. Thinking nothing. What happened? 1 second. Penny Lane, can you get the cat? Meowing outside your room. Sorry about that. So, I go to this audition, and it's for this show Frontier that's coming. Again, the same people that I Take the Shot Productions. They've combined with Momoa's company. I think it was called Pride of Gypsies. They're in LA. We're over here. They wanted to do this show about British redcoats and the indigenous.
You're a soldier in that, aren't you?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I ended up. That's exactly what happened. So I go in there and I audition to be a cook. Now there's a camera right here. Danielle Irvine, casting director's here. Paul Wilson is reading my lines with me. He's here. I do an awful, awful job as the cook. I know I did. Everybody there knows I did. And Danielle's going, no, and I got to have a British accent, right? And it's like 3 pages long. I'm not doing a good job. The more I think about it, the more I suck. And anyway, I go over, whatever happened after that, the camera's there. I just think they're recording me, but it's being like, they're actually watching it live in LA, whoever the powers that be are that are producing and / casting this movie. So I don't realize that. So I go over and I take a sip of my coffee and I take my tooth out, right? My flipper. And the only reason, guys, I hadn't got it fixed yet because I was waiting to join the crew union, which I did join. I just joined it, and I was waiting to get it fixed. And so anyway, like, through the union. So Danielle goes, wait. And there was someone in her ear. I can't remember. One of the guys behind the camera said, is that Alan's buddy, that the hockey player? I said, yeah. The director from LA, his name is Brad Payton. He happens to have been born in Gander, Newfoundland, okay? That particular year, I was playing senior in Gander, Newfoundland, senior hockey, and I got Aaron Asham to come in and play with us, and it's big news. So he says, are you out there playing with Aaron Asham? I said, yeah, I am. So anyway, we have a good conversation, but I don't think much of it. I don't. I go home, and then Danielle Irvine, who was just in the room, the casting director, calls me, and she says, you know what? I think they might want you for something. So it turns out what happens, the very, very first scene in Frontier, 5 seconds in, is Momoa has a British redcoat captured. And the guy had to look beat up and distraught, angry, depressed, all of the above. He's caught, right? Momoa's about to kill him. And so they love the fact that I had no tooth. And it only required the words, please have mercy. So I can do that, right? I can mail that in. Please have mercy, right? I can do that. I just don't want to have to think about 3 pages. So anyway, she goes, you got to cry in this scene and you got to like beg for your life. And if you can come out and do it at my house now, they're going to give it to you. And I believe Momoa had something to do with that. So, because we'd end up being good friends. But anyway, so I go in and I fucking do it. I bring myself there and it was wild. I get the role. So now, like, and as we do it that night, the camera A, B, and C are right here, and I'm caught, and they want to get my reaction. Now, behind the cameras are all my buddies on the crew that like never thought usually cross over into something like this. T-Bone's about to do a scene with Jason Momoa. This is fucking great, right? There's TPs and fires behind me as the setting. Anyway, and they're about to do it, and Brad Payton, now the director, he goes, "How much time do you need?" And I said, "I don't know, 30 or 40 seconds, I guess." And I did it, and I didn't do it really that well. Like I did it kind of like mailed it in. What I thought was good wasn't. And Momoa came over then during the next rehearsal, and his knife hit me in the back. And he said, "Oh, sorry about that. My knife hit you in the back." I said, "I thought you were just happy to see me." And everybody started laughing again. And then Brad came down and he got in my ear and he said, "Look, you've got to get, I want to see blood, sweat, tears. I want to see snot. Like you're not saying please have mercy because you want him to keep you alive. You just want a quick death." And he's like, this is the teaser for the whole show and it's going to come out. I mean, I should have known that already. And I thought I was doing all right, but I'm like, okay, now I really got to get there. So I got there. He said, "How much time you need?" I said, 30 seconds. He looked around. He said, "Everybody, 2 minutes. Shut the fuck up. Terry's about to go." So then I was like, oh, Jesus. So I did get myself there. But what's funny is that it was more the emotion of like when Momoa was there, and in that time, it was almost like, okay, I fucked up one opportunity at something great, and now here I am with Jason Momoa about to act in a scene with me, like, and it was almost like if life had ended there, it would have been like just wild that I got that opportunity, right? Yeah. So that's it. So I do the scene.
Please, have mercy.
Me and Momoa become friends. I teach him how to play hockey, skate. We skate every Sunday at St. Bon's Forum. And then he says, I'm sitting there with him down at the Merchant Tavern in St. John's. We're having a beer. Some of the crew are around it. I think it was on a day off, but we all hung out together. Momoa was great like that. Hangs out with all the crew. So his assistant's there. And she got a call. I think she had to go back to LA for some reason. Maybe a health problem for someone in her family. And he just looks over at me. He goes, "You want to be my assistant for 3 months?" I said, "No shit, I'd love to." Takes me over to Europe, puts me back in Frontier because I've died. The running joke, I die like 14 times in the show. Like I became a wreck. I put on different wigs, eye colors, everything else. He puts me in a movie called Braven. He's got me. We do season 3 Frontier in Northern England. We're staying in castles. The rest of the crew and everything are like down in the township somewhere in these old farms with sheep and everything. And me and Momoa are like up in these castles, and his team and everything. And his stunt team had all been in like Lord of the Rings. One was Spider-Man's double. And I'm meeting all these people. And I'm doing the easiest of stunts. Right? I'm not jumping out of the castle fucking window or anything, but I'm just learning how to kind of take a punch and where the camera goes and all that stuff. So he goes, by the time you get back, now you can do your basic with stunts. You got a resume now. And it got me into the acting union. So I got into the acting union again. And he says to me, "I don't know if I would fix your tooth." I go, "What?" He goes, "A lot of acting is about a look." Sure enough, I get back. I get asked to be like a gangster, a pimp, a drug dealer, a drug addict, and very rarely a hockey player. And I'm telling this story that I'm telling you now on Spittin' Chicklets, and Jared Kiso from, those who know Shorsey and Letterkenny know that it's created by Jared, and Jared plays the main character in both. He happened to be listening. So I was just a few days later, I was driving down the street here and casting called me. I thought it was a joke. They said, do you want to be in Letterkenny? I'm like, sure, I'd love to be in Letterkenny. And I go up there, and sure enough, I do this scene. And, he tells me before it, he goes, "I've got the lines written, but I've only been to Newfoundland once." And he says, "I watch Coldwater Cowboys all the time. That's about Newfoundland. But if you need to add anything to this," he goes, "the whole point is that you're taunting the bench. And it's you and your buddy." And so the guy who comes out, Patrick Cook, I know him. I haven't seen him in 15 years, but he's from just down the road. I played hockey with his 2 brothers. And he says, "Okay, I'm going to do Townie, like Monday Ponderry." I said, "Okay, I will too. Let's do it." So then, so we kind of combined, and we just went through and did it a bunch of times. And then at lunch that day, Jared said, "I'd love to have you back." He said, I have an idea up here," he said, "and you're going to hear about it soon if I decide to do it." And then a year went by. I didn't hear about it. And I thought, okay, it's over. But I didn't know it was Shorsey or anything. And then not long after that, he said a year, it was maybe 15 months. I got a phone call and said, "Can you be available in October, November, and December?" And when they told me why, I said gladly. And Ted Hitchcock was born.